One of the biggest missed opportunities in my life. And I want to talk about the sad, sad wasted potential that was Jeepers Creepers. Hey, what's up everybody? Nick here, and today I want to talk to you guys about Jeepers Creepers. Now, before anybody hears that and clicks off of this video and types some hateful comment, don't worry, that subhuman piece of garbage is going to get his fair share of a tongue lashing from me today in this video, so you have nothing to worry about. Look, Jeepers Creepers was an event. Jeepers Creepers was a horror icon in the making. This low-budget monster horror film that kind of came out of nowhere and made a ton of money at the box office in the early 2000s, which got a sequel greenlit almost immediately after. And what did the sequel do? It made even more than the first movie at the box office. So that would tell you that fans were liking this, right? People were really receptive to this character and this franchise, and they had every reason to be. Look, the Creeper in his creation is a phenomenal character. We know almost nothing about this character at all. All we know is that he's some kind of creature that comes out for 23 days every 23rd spring to eat. That's it. Then he goes into hibernation and comes back 23 years later. That's it. So with a backstory so vague, a motivation so primal and terrifying, and a phenomenal performance by Jonathan Breck and a great makeup job, why wasn't Jeepers Creepers a much bigger hit? Why are we not here in 2025 talking about the 8th or 9th or 10th Jeepers Creepers movie? Everything was there, right? People were flocking to the box office, fans were terrified by this character, everything was good. Well, it's no secret to anybody these days that sadly the creator of this character is a horrible, horrible person. Now, in order for me to not get my video demonetized or potentially stricken from YouTube, I will choose my words carefully. But writer and director Victor Salva is subhuman filth. He is a child abuser, and a well-known one at this point. In 1989, when he was writing and directing a film called Clown House, he abused the star of that film, a 12-year-old boy. Salva was convicted of his crimes and spent a measly 15 months in prison. Now, to make matters worse, he was then allowed back in Hollywood to write and direct films. And one of those films, 10 years later, was Jeepers Creepers. Now, at the time, nobody really knew who this guy was, and it wasn't until Jeepers Creepers and then Jeepers Creepers 2 were such big commercial hits that his past got dug up, and rightfully so. And ever since then, nobody wanted to touch the Jeepers Creepers property. So with the success of those two movies and him presumably making a lot of money, that's when his past resurfaced. And that's when Hollywood wanted nothing to do with him. Not beforehand. No, it was after the public found out and then the public turned on him. See, all the suits at these studios were willing to turn a blind eye and give this guy money and let him make a movie. And it sucked for horror fans like us. Because for 20 plus years now, we felt like we're in this fight of like, hey, I love this character and I love these movies, but I hate the guy that created it. And that's fair, because guess what? At the time, you didn't know that about him. You also don't necessarily want to punish literally everybody that was a part of a film simply because one person was a terrible person. Sadly, that one person, though, is the reason why this franchise has never grown to what it could be. It took them over a decade to make Jeepers Creepers 3 because nobody would give Salva funding. Well, eventually Myriad Pictures, they picked it up and they said, hey, we're going to make a third Jeepers Creepers movie. And if you couldn't tell by watching the movie, it is a low-budget piece of crap because nobody wanted to work with him. And as soon as Jeepers Creepers 3 came out, it seemed like that movie would be the death knell for the franchise. No, it wasn't just because director Victor Salva was a piece of shit. It was also because the movie happened to be a piece of shit. So not only did everybody hate him and not want to support him, but those who did go out and see that movie were disappointed because a character they once knew and loved turned into a joke, a CGI shitfest. That's pretty much what I could say Jeepers Creepers 3 is. As a fan of that character, it was a really hard time for me because I waited over a decade for this franchise to come back, and I wanted it to be anybody but him at the reins. I wanted nothing more than for somebody else to pick up this property and do something with it. But of course it was him that came back with it. And what did he do? he vomited up a terrible movie. A movie that was so lifeless, so just disgusting and offensive to watch. Like, it was just a bad movie. And it killed any hope that I once had about this character and this franchise. And then it would take a couple years before he got bought out. He finally was bought out. Victor Salva has finally sold his rights to the Creeper and the Jeepers Creepers franchise, and we can finally move forward without his involvement. However, the damage had already been done to the brand. Look, Jeepers Creepers Reborn is a cinematic abomination. Let's be real. If you're talking on a technical level, it's just not a good movie. But the reason that Reborn had to be this way was, again, no company wanted to touch this property. Nobody wanted to pay Salva. Nobody wanted to work with Salva. People rightfully felt like the damage had been done to the character and the brand. And they were right. Look, as much as horror fans have a lot of reverence in their heart for Jeepers Creepers and Jeepers Creepers 2, it is undeniable that over the last 20 years, most people on the outside couldn't care less. And those who did care back in the day are kind of compelled to not care because they don't want to support anything that Salva had anything to do with. So it was kind of a catch-22. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. But they did, and they gave us Reborn. And as I said, it's just a terrible movie. Look, I went and saw Jeepers Creepers Reborn at its Fathom event. It was in theaters for a couple days, for a weekend, and I knew it was going to be bad. Even before seeing the movie, Christian and I interviewed director Timo Voronsola, and I just want to say, Timo was doing a job. Look, I do not fault him whatsoever for the final product that we got. He was given a terrible shooting schedule, almost no money, and a damaged brand. The guy tried to do what he could with it. After it came out and it was a total flop and everybody hated it, guess where we are today in 2025 with Jeepers Creepers? Nowhere. We're absolutely nowhere. Why? Because nobody wants to touch the property. Because nobody sees it as profitable anymore. Nobody sees it as marketable, and probably rightfully so. And that's a sad truth to have to face today. Because if you would have asked somebody 20 years ago the potential of this franchise, they would have told you it was limitless. Jeepers Creepers was never loved by critics, don't get me wrong, but it was more 50-50, middle of the road back in the day. But now, the last two installments, just absolutely panned by not just critics, but fans alike. They didn't make their budget back, and the product that you got on screen just goes to show you this thing has probably run out of life. And it sucks. You know, it especially bothers me because I don't think we talk enough about how hard it is to create an icon in anything, but specifically a horror icon in today's day and age. You only see them come around once every blue moon. It's really hard to sequelize something over and over and over and over again and keep people interested. And Jeepers Creepers could have been one of those franchises. That monster is iconic. Everything about this series screamed the next big thing. And then it just didn't happen. Because sadly, the guy who made it is a horrible human being, and it damaged the brand forever. So today in 2025, I don't know how to feel and I don't know what to think. I know I've gone back and forth with myself many times thinking, man, I really wish a studio would just pick up the rights. Somebody just pick up the rights, put $15 million behind this, and just redo it. Completely reboot this thing from the ground up. Put money behind it, put actors in there, make it scary, make it memorable again, and really see the potential that this franchise could have. But sadly, as long as Salva's still alive, and as long as the taste of Jeepers Creepers 3 and Jeepers Creepers Reborn are fresh in people's mouths, I don't think you're going to hear any conversations about this franchise coming back anytime soon. And as I've said 15 times up to this point in this video, it really, really sucks. Because at one point, I thought this guy, he was limitless. He was boundless. The things that he could be and this franchise could become, they were endless. But I don't know. That's just my 2 cents on the sad story of Jeepers Creepers and where it is today. So sound off in the comment section below. Let me know what you think about this franchise. Let me know if you, like me, once thought that this would be the next big thing. And let me know what you think they could do moving forward to bring this franchise back to prominence. But whatever it is about Jeepers Creepers, I want to hear you discuss it in the comment section with me. So please make sure to leave a like on the video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm pulling out.